Have you ever paused in a quiet moment and sensed something more than the world you can touch or see? Perhaps it was a fleeting awareness, a subtle feeling that life is threaded with a presence you can't quite name. Tonight, allow yourself to lean into that gentle mystery. Beneath the noise of ordinary life, there is an invisible field, a living sea of energy where every thought, every feeling, and every heartbeat sends out its own silent ripple. Imagine standing at the edge of a perfectly still pond. The surface is so calm, it mirrors the sky like a sheet of glass. Now picture the tiniest pebble falling from your fingertips. Instantly, soft waves roll outward in perfect circles, touching every point of the water's edge. Your inner world works in much the same way. A single thought, whether of worry or wonder, moves beyond the borders of your mind like those ripples, influencing people and events in ways you may never see with your eyes. Ancient traditions knew this long before. We had words like quantum field. They spoke of prana, or the breath of life, describing a subtle force that connects every living being. These weren't mere poetic guesses. For centuries, healers and mystics practiced breathing exercises, meditation, and sacred movement to align themselves with that hidden current. They knew that when the inner energy is balanced, life unfolds with unexpected harmony, just as the pond settles back into stillness after the pebble's gentle splash. Modern science, in its own language, has begun to whisper the same truth. Physics speaks of a quantum field, an ocean of vibrating energy that permeates everything. Particles flicker in and out of existence, guided by patterns we barely comprehend. You and I are not separate from that ocean. We are expressions of it. Every atom in your body is a temporary arrangement of the same invisible waves that hold the stars. What you call you is a symphony of frequencies, playing for a brief and brilliant moment in time. If you could sense those subtle waves you emit, what would they reveal? Perhaps you'd notice how a single breath of gratitude sends a softer tone into the field, or how a day of quiet joy carries farther than you imagined. Energy follows intention, and intention begins with awareness. This is not about forcing a positive thought or pretending away pain. It is about recognizing that your inner state is never sealed inside. It is always, inevitably, part of the wider flow. Think of a conversation you once had that left you unexpectedly uplifted. Long after the words faded, something lingered, a brightness, a charge in the air. That was the field responding. When two people share a moment of real presence, their energies intertwine, and the atmosphere itself becomes more alive. The same is true when you enter a room and immediately sense tension, even before anyone speaks. You are reading the field, an intuitive skill as old as humanity. For centuries, we were taught to define ourselves by the visible: our bodies, our possessions, the stories we tell about who we are. But the invisible field quietly dissolves those boundaries. The old you, the one built of labels and habits, is not a fixed identity. It is only a pattern in energy, a temporary arrangement of vibrations that can change as naturally as a river shifts its course. When you recognize this, possibility opens like dawn breaking over dark hills. Consider the way a single candle brightens a room. Its light does not strain or strive. It simply radiates, and darkness recedes without resistance. Your own presence carries a similar luminosity. When you become aware of the field, the more you nurture clarity within, the more the world around you begins to reflect that clarity back. This is not magic in the fairy tale sense. It is the quiet science of resonance, where like frequencies meet and harmonize. Pause for a breath. Feel the air move gently through you, as if the universe itself is breathing with you. In that simple inhale and exhale, you are already participating in the unseen. Each cell in your body exchanges energy with the environment in a dance so intricate that no human mind could script it. The field is not out there. It is here, intimate and immediate, closer than your own thoughts. You might wonder, if this field is so present, why can't we always feel it? Perhaps because we are trained to trust only what our senses can measure. Yet even science admits that most of reality is invisible to the eye. Radio waves pass through walls. Magnetic currents guide birds across oceans. Gravity itself, unseen and silent, holds galaxies in their spiral. The invisible is not empty. It is the very fabric of existence. So what does this mean for you? Sitting quietly and listening now? It means your life is far more spacious than you have been led to believe. Your choices, your emotions, your quiet intentions, they ripple outward in ways that gently sculpt reality. The field is both a mirror and a canvas, reflecting and responding to the energy you offer. Every heartbeat, every thought of kindness, every moment of stillness, writes a line in the larger story. As you settle into this understanding, notice how curiosity begins to stir. If your thoughts and feelings shape the invisible field, then what might happen when you become the conscious observer of those thoughts? Could awareness itself transform the ripples you send? In the next part of our journey, we will explore how observation changes not only what you see, but the very fabric of reality itself. For now, rest in the wonder of knowing that you are more than a body moving through space. You are a living note in the great symphony of the unseen. The observer effect, your consciousness as the hidden sculptor. Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet lake just before dawn. The water lies still, a silver sheet reflecting the faint glow of morning. You toss a pebble and watch as ripples spread outward, altering every reflection. In that simple act, the once unchanged surface has become a moving story. Now picture something even more subtle, a ripple not of stone, but of awareness. Modern science reveals that when we observe, we are not merely watching the lake. We are shaping the ripples themselves. More than a century ago, physicists set out to discover how light and matter behave. They designed a test that has since become almost mythical, the double-slit experiment. They aimed a beam of tiny particles, electrons or photons, toward a screen with two narrow openings. Without observation, those particles behaved like a soft wave of water, spreading and overlapping to create delicate stripes of light and dark. But the moment scientists measured which slit a particle passed through, everything changed. The beautiful wave pattern collapsed into neat, individual dots. Observation itself shifted reality. This is not just an odd laboratory trick. It whispers of something profound, that the act of watching alters what is watched. The universe, at its smallest scale, responds to being seen. Your consciousness is not a distant spectator. It is an active ingredient in the recipe of existence. Think of it like a dancer in a song. When no one listens, the dancer may sway freely, improvising without pattern. But when eyes and ears focus, the dance crystallizes into a rhythm, the song sharpens into form. Likewise, the quantum world dances in infinite possibilities until awareness focuses its gaze. Your attention is the silent audience that calls the performance into being. Ancient mystics spoke in metaphors of this same mystery. The sages of India taught that the world is Maya, a cosmic play shaped by the Pacific. Taoist philosophers whispered that the observer and the observed are not two, but one seamless field. Long before physics found its equations, seers suggested that reality bends toward consciousness, like flowers turning toward light. This doesn't mean that every casual thought rearranges the stars. Rather, it points to something quieter and more intimate. The inner state you carry shapes the way the world unfolds around you. Consider a day when you awaken heavy with worry. Even familiar places seem to dim. Another day, when your heart is light, those same streets shimmer with possibility. Your awareness has not changed the bricks and stones, yet it colors everything you experience. Quantum physics offers a poetic echo of what mystics have long intuited. Your inner gaze matters. Now, let's return to that lake at dawn. Imagine that each thought is a pebble you drop into the still water of reality. Every intention, every quiet noticing, sends ripples that touch distant shores. The double-slit experiment shows us that the simple act of observing, can collapse a field of possibilities into a single outcome. Likewise, the quality of your awareness, whether scattered or focused, may sculpt the unfolding of your life. Ask yourself, what patterns have you been unconsciously observing? Old stories, lingering doubts, the subtle belief that change is beyond you. What if, by becoming aware of the very act of watching, you begin to soften those patterns? Awareness itself is transformative. Like light entering a dark room, it doesn't push or force, it reveals, and in revealing, it alters what it touches. This is why meditation is more than relaxation. It is a practice of conscious observation. As you sit quietly, you notice thoughts arise and fade. You become the witness, and in that gentle noticing, the thoughts lose their grip. You are no longer tangled in the script. You are the one turning the pages. Here, the science of quantum observation meets the art of inner stillness. Imagine carrying this insight into daily life. When you pause before reacting, when you see your emotions without rushing to control them, you stand in the very place where change begins. The old self defined by habits and fears starts to dissolve, not through struggle, but through the quiet power of attention. And so, the observer effect is not merely a scientific curiosity, it is an invitation. It calls you to recognize that your awareness is not passive. It is the hidden sculptor, carving the shape of each moment. Just as the double-slit experiment shows particles choosing their path when observed, your life responds to the quality of your seeing. As the night deepens and you listen to these words, notice the subtle shift inside you of quiet excitement, a question that glows like a candle in the dark. If the universe itself responds to being observed, what might your own focused awareness create? Could it end the patterns of the old you and open a doorway to something new? Ancient cultures did not ask these questions as theory. They lived them as truth. From the Vedic seers to the mystics of the desert, they understood that consciousness and reality are woven from the same fabric. Their wisdom waits just ahead, where timeless teachings meet the discoveries of our age, and that is where our journey now turns. Toward the ancient echoes that still call us home. Ancient wisdom of transformation. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at the edge of time itself. Before there were laboratories or telescopes, before equations or particle accelerators, there were human beings gazing at the same sky you see tonight and asking the very questions that stir in you now. Who are we? What is real? And can the world around us be shaped by the quiet power within? Long before modern science spoke of energy fields and quantum potential, the ancient seers of India described Atman, the unchanging self that exists beyond birth and death. To them, Atman was not an idea to debate, but a living truth to be experienced. Through stillness and mantra, they discovered a presence beyond thought, a silent witness that is both deeply personal and boundless. The sages whispered that when you touch this inner reality, the outer world responds, like a lake reflecting the moon, far to the west. Egyptian mystics and Greek philosophers recorded their own revelation in the Hermetic phrase, as above, so below. They sensed that the patterns of the heavens echoed in the smallest details of life, that the grand and the minute were woven from the same living fabric. To contemplate this was to glimpse a universe without hard edges where the movements of the stars and the stirrings of the human heart were reflections of one great rhythm. Shamans of the Americas carried the same torch in a different language. For them, every stone and river held spirit. Reality itself was a conversation, and the dreamer's vision could ripple outward to guide the tribe. When they journeyed in trance or sang their medicine songs, they were not escaping the world, but tuning to the deeper field that underlies it. Their rituals were a way to speak with the invisible currents, shaping everyday life. The Chinese sages of the Tao looked not for control but for harmony. They watched water carve valleys and clouds gather and break apart, and they recognized a principle beyond names, the Tao, the way of all things. To live in tune with it was to move as nature moves, effortlessly, yet with unshakable power. Their wisdom still whispers that transformation is not forced. It unfolds when we remember we are already part of the flow. Travel across these cultures, and you begin to hear a single melody beneath the many voices. The Vedic seers spoke of the self beyond form, the Hermetic philosophers of the mirror between worlds, the shamans of the living spirit, the Taoists of the way that cannot be grasped. Different words, different landscapes. Yet each points to a truth, both startling and simple. The boundaries we cling to are illusions, and consciousness is the bridge between the unseen and the seen. Modern science, with its equations and experiments, is now brushing against the same mystery. Quantum researchers speak of particles existing in superposition until observed, of reality shimmering with potential until consciousness gives it shape. The language is new, but the wonder is old. It is as if the universe has been waiting for us to remember what our ancestors never forgot. That the observer and the observed are not separate, and that awareness itself carries the power to transform. Consider what this means for you. The sages would say you are not merely a traveler in a fixed world. You are a co-creator in an unfolding dream. Every thought, every quiet intention, every breath of belief is a ripple in the field. The old you, the one defined by history, by labels, by the limits others placed upon you, was always a mask. Beneath it lies the same luminous essence that shamans sang to and mystics named as divine. This recognition does not shout. It arises like dawn, soft and inevitable. The map of transformation left by those who came before is not a set of rules, but an invitation. You need not memorize every mantra or follow every ritual. Simply remembering that your awareness and the universe are entwined is enough to begin the journey. And as you let that truth settle, notice the subtle shift inside a quiet opening, as though something ancient in you is stirring awake. The wisdom of transformation is not locked in distant temples or hidden scrolls. It is alive in the very moment you realize the world is as fluid as your own consciousness. As we move forward, keep this gentle realization close. The same force that breathed the stars into being flows through you even now. It is the thread that links every tradition, every seeker, every moment of awakening. In the next part of our journey, we'll follow that thread into a deeper understanding of how this timeless knowing can illuminate the path that lies ahead, the single realization that ends the old. You'll imagine for a moment that you are standing on the edge of a quiet lake at dusk. The surface is perfectly still, reflecting the sky in soft hues of violet and gold. You watch the gentle ripples spread as a single leaf lands on the water. And then you notice those ripples do not belong to the lake itself. They are only movements on its surface. The lake, vast and silent beneath, remains untouched. In this very image lies the key to the realization that ends the old you. For so long, you have been told that you are the ripples, the memories that rise and fall. The labels you carry like a coat you cannot take off. The fears and hopes that swirl across the surface of your life. You have believed that the story of your past defines you, that the name you answer to contains your essence, that the roles you play, child, parent, friend, dreamer, are all that you are. But these are only movements in the field of awareness. They are the leaf and the ripple, not the lake itself. Look back across the timeline of your life. Each memory feels like a bead strung onto an invisible thread, creating a narrative that seems solid. Yet, if you pause and examine any single memory, you will find it is nothing more than a thought arising now. Even the memory of yesterday exists only as a present moment image, a flicker in the current of consciousness. The story of every triumph, every heartbreak, lives only in the mind's present imagination. It is not the unshakable core you once believed. This is the quiet revolution. You are not the story of you. You are the one who notices the story. You are the awareness in which memories appear and dissolve. The silent witness that remains when the thoughts of identity fall away. Like the lake beneath the ripples, This awareness is untouched by the winds of change. It has no age, no name, no history. It is not born, and it does not die. Consider how easily the old self arises. The scent of rain recalls childhood. A passing glance triggers the ache of a forgotten heartbreak. The mind rushes to claim these feelings as evidence of who you are. But pause. Who is noticing this rush? The very act of noticing reveals something remarkable. There is a presence behind the thought, an observer untouched by the content of the thought. That presence is you, not the character in the story, but the space in which the story is told. You might wonder, if the self is not a fixed entity, what becomes of the old you? Does it vanish overnight? In truth, it was never truly there. The labels, the roles, the constant internal commentary were like shadows cast by the mind's projector. When light fills a dark room, the shadows do not fight. They simply disappear. So it is with the old you. Illumination, not effort, ends the tyranny of the past. This realization is not an escape from life. It is a deeper arrival. When you rest as pure presence, you do not reject your memories or discard your personality. Instead, you see them for what they are, expressions of the present moment, dancing across the field of awareness. You still play roles, you still speak your name, but you no longer confuse the play with the stage. You no longer mistake the ripple for the lake. Feel into this truth, as if it were a gentle breeze on your skin. You are the witnessing consciousness, the silent backdrop to every sensation, every thought, every heartbeat. This awareness is spacious and free. It cannot be damaged by past mistakes or limited by future fears. It is the same presence you knew as a child before you learned the language of I and me. It is the unchanging essence that has quietly watched every chapter of your life unfold. To recognize this is to wake from a dream. The old identity built from memories, labels, and fears was only ever a vibration in the energy field of experience. When you see through it, there is no dramatic farewell, no struggle. The old you fades like mist in the morning sun, not because you force it away, but because you see it was never more than a passing story, and in the gentle space left behind, you encounter a freedom beyond words. It is the freedom of being simple and immediate. Here, life is no longer a script you must follow, or a character you must defend. It is an unfolding mystery, met by the quiet clarity of pure awareness. As you rest in this discovery, notice how curiosity naturally stirs within you. If you are not the story, how then do you live? How do you walk through the world with this recognition alive in your heart? These questions are not burdens. They are invitations. And as we move forward, this very curiosity will guide us to the next step, learning how to embody this truth in the rhythm of everyday life, where the timeless observer meets the dance of the world, dissolving the patterns. Practical inner shifts. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the familiar rhythm of your breath. Each inhale arrives like a quiet wave. Each exhale's a soft retreat back into the ocean. This is where transformation begins, not in grand gestures or sudden leaps, but in the steady awareness of something you have done all your life without thought. Breathing becomes the first key to dissolving the patterns that no longer serve you. As you notice the air entering and leaving, you start to feel a subtle spaciousness opening inside, as if the walls of an old room are gently sliding apart. From this place of simple noticing, a deeper invitation emerges, the practice of mindful breathing. Let every inhale be an acknowledgement of life's constant renewal, and every exhale a gentle release of the energies you no longer need. There is no rush. The rhythm of your breath is your own, unhurried and unique. As you stay with it, something remarkable happens. The mind, often a restless storyteller, begins to quiet. In that quiet, old patterns lose their grip. They cannot thrive where there is no urgency, only the patient cadence of presence now. Allow your awareness to drift downward, like a feather settling on still water. This is the essence of a body scan, a slow, compassionate journey through the landscape of your own being. Begin at the crown of your head and simply notice. The forehead, the eyes, the jaw, each area holds stories of thought and emotion. You do not need to change anything. You are only witnessing. As your attention travels down the neck and shoulders, you might sense subtle tensions you didn't know were there, small echoes of past worries. Breathe into them, not to force them away, but to offer them the space to soften. The body scan is not about perfect relaxation. It is about meeting yourself with gentle curiosity. Every part of your arms, chest, abdomen, hips, legs has been a silent witness to your life. When you notice without judgment, you allow the energy stored in those places to flow again. Old patterns dissolve not because you push them out, but because you finally stop holding them so tightly. The body, when honored in this way, becomes a living temple of release. As you grow comfortable with mindful breathing and body scanning, you can take another subtle step, observing thoughts as they arise. Imagine each thought as a cloud drifting across an endless sky. Some clouds are bright and playful, others heavy with rain, but all are temporary. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. This simple image can change everything. When you stop identifying with every thought, you stop feeding the patterns those thoughts create. You become the quiet witness, vast and unbound, while the old self built from stories and labels begins to loosen its hold. At first, this practice might reveal how persistent certain thoughts can be. They return like echoes, testing your resolve. But watch closely. Even the most insistent thought eventually drifts away when you do not chase it. What once felt like a solid wall of mental noise begins to look like a passing weather pattern. In this recognition lies profound freedom. The patterns that once defined you are revealed as fleeting ripples in a much larger field of awareness. These practices, breathing, body scanning, thought observation, are not isolated techniques. Together they form a quiet laboratory for transformation. As you cultivate them day by day, you are training your inner world to stay open, spacious, and fluid. The old energetic imprints, those subtle programs of fear or limitation, begin to unravel in the warmth of your attention. This is not a battle. It is a soft, natural dawn, the kind that spreads light without effort or noise. You may notice, as these inner shifts deepen, that something in the outer world begins to respond. Conversations feel lighter. Synchronicities appear where before there was only routine. The people and opportunities that arrive seem to echo your growing clarity. It is as if the universe, sensing your inner renewal, begins to reflect it back. This is no coincidence. The patterns of your life have always been a mirror of your inner state. And now the mirror gleams with new light. Dissolving old patterns is not about erasing the past. It is about creating space for a truer present. Each breath, each moment of compassionate noticing, lays the groundwork for what comes next. The more you practice, the more natural this becomes, until presence itself feels like your most familiar home. And as this home expands, so does the horizon of possibility. The gentle truth reveals itself. When the inner landscape transforms, the outer world cannot help but follow.
This quiet revolution inside you carries its own subtle promise. As you release what no longer belongs and anchor this new awareness, the energy you cultivate begins to move outward. You might not yet see the full shape of what is forming, but you can feel its pull. Like the hush before a sunrise, the world around you is preparing to mirror the shifts you have made within. Soon, you will step into the next chapter, the art of manifestation, where the universe responds to the clarity you now carry. The journey continues, and the path ahead glows with the light of what is possible. Manifestation through the new energy field when the old layers of identity finally soften and fall away. Something extraordinary begins to shimmer in the quiet spaces of your being. It is as if the static on a radio dial suddenly clears, revealing a melody that has always been there but was hidden beneath the noise. This new clarity is not a distant promise. It is the natural state of your awakened self. You are no longer trying to become something. Instead, you are beginning to recognize that you already are something luminous, magnetic, and quietly powerful. Imagine standing on the shore at sunrise, the horizon tinted with soft gold. The tide moves without effort, pulled by the moon's silent command. In the same way, your energy field now responds to a higher rhythm. It vibrates at a frequency that naturally calls to it the experiences and relationships that reflect your truest essence. Just as the moon never strains to draw the ocean toward it, you do not need to force or chase. The resonance itself does the work. Consider the way a tuning fork hums when it encounters another tuned to the same note. Your renewed field works like that, a living instrument of harmony. When you hold this new vibration, opportunities begin to appear, not because you hunted them down, but because the universe recognizes the song you are now singing. People and circumstances that match your inner melody simply find you. This is manifestation, not as a skill to master, but as a natural expression of who you have become. Perhaps you have already felt the first signs. A conversation that arrives at the perfect moment, a door that opens without knocking, a gentle nudge from life that feels both surprising and inevitable. These synchronicities are not random. They are the universe's quiet acknowledgement that your inner transformation is complete enough to ripple outward. You are no longer sending mixed signals. Your field is clear, and the response is immediate. This shift is more than personal good, fortune. It is a reorientation of how you participate in reality itself. The observer effect in quantum physics reminds us that observation influences the behavior of particles. Likewise, your awakened awareness does not merely watch life unfold. It shapes the unfolding. When you dwell in this higher resonance, you are not a passive spectator. You are a co-creator, and the canvas of your life responds to every brushstroke of thought and intention. It might feel almost too effortless at first, as if the old rules of striving no longer apply. The mind, trained for years to chase and grasp, may resist. Yet, the new energy field invites you to trust the ease. Imagine a river carrying you downstream. The current is not asking you to paddle harder. It asks only that you stop clinging to the shore. Your task is simply to remain present, to let the flow reveal the landscapes meant for you, relationships to begin to reflect this quiet transformation. The people who resonate with your new frequency sense it, often before words are exchanged. Conversations deepen, connections form without explanation, and the bonds that once felt heavy or forced may gently loosen. This is not loss, it is alignment. The field around you acts like a gentle magnet, drawing in those whose hearts are ready to move in harmony and releasing those who are not, as you settle into this natural magnetism. The line between inner and outer begins to blur. What once seemed like coincidence now feels like conversation. Life whispers back to you in symbols and patterns, in the soft timing of chance encounters, in the sudden appearance of exactly what you needed before you knew you would need it. These are the echoes of your own vibration, returning to you in forms you can touch and see. The beauty of this stage is its simplicity. Manifestation is no longer a practice of complex rituals or detailed visualizations. It is the organic result of being fully awake to who you are. Just as a flower does not study how to bloom, you do not need to strategize your unfolding. Your only real task is to stay attuned to nurture the clarity that has already been born. And as you live in this resonance, a subtle wonder unfolds. The realization that your transformation touches more than your personal life. The higher frequency of your field naturally contributes to the collective consciousness. Each harmonious thought, each act of quiet presence becomes part of a greater song that uplifts others. Without effort, you become a catalyst for the awakening of those around you. Notice how this understanding invites both comfort and excitement. Comfort, because you no longer need to strain. Excitement, because the possibilities are limitless and often delightfully unpredictable. The universe now speaks to you in a language of alignment. All you need to do is listen and follow the gentle currents of synchronicity as they guide you forward. Relationships and collective shift when single heart begins to glow with a new awareness. It rarely stays contained. A song that calls the others into harmony. Your own awakening sends out vibrations that quietly touch every relationship in your life. You may not notice it at first. There is no sudden announcement, no dramatic sign. Yet those closest to you begin to sense something. Perhaps they linger a little longer in your presence, drawn by a calm they can't explain. Your quiet transformation becomes an unspoken invitation for others to soften, to listen, and to remember their own inner light. Think of it like tuning forks placed side by side. When one is struck, the others begin to hum in sympathy. The resonance is effortless. No words are needed. In the same way, when your thoughts and emotions settle into a more peaceful rhythm, the people around you naturally respond. Friends who once carried tension may find themselves breathing easier in your company. Family conversations that once sparked conflict may shift into unexpected gentleness. Your personal shift is not a private event. It is a subtle melody that draws other hearts into harmony. Science offers a mirror to this mystery. In physics, the observer effect shows how the mere presence of awareness can influence the outcome of an event. On a more human level, researchers have found that emotions are contagious. Laughter spreads through a room without explanation. Single anxious glance can ripple through a crowd. Your awakening works in much the same way. By becoming more mindful, more grounded, you are quietly reshaping the emotional climate of every space you enter. Without effort, you are a living example of what a balanced, awakened presence can feel like. Consider how this plays out in relationships. Perhaps you used to meet conflict with the same sharp edge you received. Reaction, you breathe. You answer with curiosity instead of judgment. That single moment of stillness becomes a turning point, allowing a conversation to unfold with unexpected kindness. Loved ones may not be able to name what changed, but they feel it. And in feeling it, they are invited to discover the same spaciousness within themselves. Communities begin to shift in the same quiet way. One person chooses to listen deeply, and others feel safe enough to share their truth. A friend, inspired by your calm, decides to practice a morning meditation. Another, moved by your gentler way of speaking, finds the courage to forgive someone long estranged. These small acts seem personal and isolated, yet together they form a web of subtle transformation. Like sparks across dry grass, awakening spreads. Not through grand gestures, but through ordinary moments charged with presence. Ancient wisdom has always hinted at this invisible network. Spiritual traditions speak of the oneness of all beings, the idea that beneath our differences we are connected like branches of the same tree. Modern science now echoes this truth. Ecosystems thrive because every part influences the whole, and even the tiniest shift can change the pattern of the entire system. Your own growth is not separate from this great tapestry. Each time you choose compassion over fear, patience over frustration, you are quietly strengthening the fabric of collective consciousness. Imagine the ripple moving outward. A more peaceful family creates a more compassionate neighborhood. A compassionate neighborhood shapes a more understanding city. Cities joined in understanding create nations capable of dialogue rather than division. Though you may never see the full arc of this influence, you are part of it. Your inner work is a silent contribution to a global awakening, an evolution of humanity that begins with a single, steady heartbeat. This realization can be both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it shows how deeply we are intertwined. Our choices carry weight beyond what we can measure. Empowering because it reminds you that the most profound way to serve the world is to tend to your own consciousness. You do not need a stage or a grand audience. Your presence, when aligned with love and clarity, is enough to light countless unseen candles. Integrating the shift into everyday life, the moment of awakening often feels like standing at the edge of a vast, luminous horizon. In those first days, everything glows with a rare clarity. Sounds sharpen, colors deepen, and every breath carries the sweetness of discovery. Yet, as the days settle and the ordinary rhythm of life reclaims its familiar tempo, a quiet question begins to whisper. How do I keep this light alive when the world calls me back into its daily demands? The answer is not in grand gestures, but in the smallest of moments. Morning, for instance, offers a natural doorway. Before the mind rushes toward tasks and obligations, allow the first light of day to greet you with silence. Sit at the edge of your bed and notice the soft weight of the air. The stillness of those early minutes is like fertile soil, ready to receive the seed of your new awareness. Even a single conscious breath, taken before touching the floor, can carry the memory of your awakening into the hours ahead. As you rise, let your morning rituals become more than routine. Pouring tea can become a meditation in itself. The swirl of steam, a gentle reminder of the unseen currents that guide life. The warmth of the cup in your palms can be a quiet echo of the warmth that now lives within you. When you brush your teeth, when you tie your shoes, when you open the door to the day, treat each gesture as an invitation to stay awake. Awareness need not be loud or dramatic. It thrives in the subtle spaces you inhabit without rushing. This presence is not reserved for peaceful mornings alone. The true integration happens amid the very places that once pulled you away from yourself. At work, where conversations can blur into noise and deadlines sharpen the edges of your mind, the awakened self can remain steady through mindful pauses. Let each transition between tasks become a tiny sanctuary, one slow breath before opening an email, one soft exhale before answering the phone. These seconds are like secret doorways, invisible to others but vivid to you, where the awakened energy can root itself more deeply. Consider the simple practice of listening. Whether it is the hum of an office, the chatter of a cafe, or the quiet tick of a clock, listening without reaching for meaning anchors you in the now. The world is always offering a living soundtrack. And by letting it wash through you, without judgment, you allow the spaciousness of your awakening to stretch and breathe, even in moments of tension and an unexpected conflict. A sudden rush of frustration, your newfound clarity can be the still point in the storm. Imagine yourself as the calm center of a turning wheel. The outer rim may spin with noise and urgency, but at the hub, there is only silence. A single conscious breath can return you to that center. Over time, this becomes less an effort and more a natural reflex, like the body finding balance without thought. When evening comes, the day invites reflection, not as a task, but as a gentle unfolding. As you prepare for rest, pause to sense the subtle echoes of presence that linger in your body. Perhaps it is the memory of a quiet smile you offered a stranger, or the moment when sunlight caught the edge of a leaf just so. These are not mere fragments of a day. They are proof that awakening has woven itself into the fabric of your ordinary life. You may choose to write these moments in a journal, or simply breathe them into your heart. The act of noticing without measuring success or failure allows your awakened energy to root itself like a river finding its natural path. It does not strain to flow. It simply follows the contours of the land. So too will your awareness find its way, shaping itself around the unique terrain of your life. It is natural to wonder whether this clarity will fade, whether the noise of daily living will drown the quiet you have discovered. But integration is not about holding tightly to a single peak experience. It is about trusting that the shift is not fragile. Just as the river does not forget its course when rocks interrupt its flow, your awakened self does not disappear when life grows busy. The current remains even when the surface ripples. As these practices become second nature, you may sense something unexpected, a new stirring, a gentle nudge toward the next unfolding. This is not the end of the journey, but a quiet beginning of another. Your deepened presence will naturally start to ask, why am I here? What is the purpose of this expanded awareness? These questions are not burdens to be solved, but invitations to a deeper dance, living your true purpose from the new you when you awaken to the deeper truth of who you are. Something extraordinary begins to unfold. The restless search for meaning that once felt like an endless quest quietly fades, as though the noise of a crowded room has been replaced by the stillness of dawn. Purpose, once a puzzle you struggled to solve, reveals itself not as a destination, but as a gentle current carrying you forward. It is no longer something to chase. It becomes the very atmosphere of your being, In the past, you may have tried to define your purpose with job titles, achievements, or roles you thought would complete you. Perhaps you carried lists of goals or visions of success, believing they held the key to fulfillment. But from the awakened state, you see these efforts for what they were: steps in a larger dance that was never about the destination. Purpose is not a career, nor is it a grand plan etched in stone. It is the natural fragrance of presence, the quiet rhythm of life expressing itself through you. Imagine a river that does not force its way to the ocean, but simply flows, responding to the bends and turns of the land. This is how your true purpose lives and breathes. From this new perspective, you are the river flowing without resistance, guided by something greater than thought. Each action, each word, each moment becomes part of a spontaneous dance of giving and receiving. There is no effort, no strain, only the gentle certainty that you are exactly where you need to be. You begin to notice that the heart carries its own wisdom, one that speaks in whispers rather than shouts. When the old identity, the one built on fear, comparison, and endless striving, softens and dissolves, the quiet voice of the heart grows clear. This is not the voice of ambition or external validation. It is the voice of being itself, nudging you toward what feels alive and true. Decisions that once felt heavy and complex now unfold with a natural ease, as if life itself is making them with you. Perhaps you find yourself drawn to acts of kindness without needing a reason. Maybe a long-forgotten passion resurfaces, not to prove anything, but simply because it brings joy. These are not random impulses. They are the signs of purpose revealing itself. Your life's work, from this new awareness, is not a single project or achievement. It is the ongoing expression of love, creativity, and connection in whatever form it chooses today. There is a deep peace in realizing that you do not have to invent or control this process. The mind, once obsessed with planning and measuring, can finally rest. Purpose flows through you like breath, effortlessly, necessary, and always present. It asks nothing more than your willingness to stay open and to trust the quiet intelligence that animates all things. Consider the way a tree offers shade, without asking who will sit beneath it, or how a flower blooms without wondering if anyone will notice. This is the essence of true purpose. It gives because giving is its nature. From the awakened state, your life becomes an offering in the same way. Each gesture of presence, every smile, every word of compassion, every act of creation becomes part of a larger tapestry of meaning that needs no signature. This is not to say life will always be easy or free from challenge. Yet even challenges take on a different light. They become opportunities to deepen your trust, to embody love in the face of difficulty, to remember that purpose is not fragile. It does not vanish when circumstances change. It simply finds a new way to express itself. What once felt like an obstacle now feels like an invitation to grow into an even fuller expression of who you truly are. And as you live from this new you, something subtle yet profound occurs. Others feel it, without any effort to teach or convince. Your presence becomes a quiet reminder of what is possible. Your life, lived authentically, becomes a lantern for those still searching in the dark. In this way, purpose multiplies your own awakening, rippling outward in ways you may never fully see or measure. So breathe deeply and let the truth settle in. You no longer need to search for purpose. Each breath, each heartbeat, each simple act of love is the fulfillment of what you once sought outside yourself. From here, the journey continues, not as a chase for meaning, but as a lifetime of wonder. And as we move toward the final reflections in our next chapter, notice how this realization prepares the ground for a life of endless discovery where growth and grace are not goals, but the natural song of your awakened heart, the journey beyond. The old you, close your eyes for a moment and notice the quiet rhythm of your own breath. Each inhale arrives like a gentle tide. Each exhale softens the edges of thought. In this simple movement, life itself is speaking an endless current that has carried you here. You may have thought this journey would lead you to a single, shining destination, a final point of arrival. But listen closely. The silence between your breaths is telling a different story. It is a living, breathing mystery that continues to unfold long after the old you has dissolved. The self you once carried, the one defined by old fears and familiar roles, has already slipped away like mist in the morning sun. Perhaps you sensed its departure in subtle ways, a sudden clarity in your thoughts, a softening of the weight on your chest, the surprising ease with which you now release what once felt impossible to let go. That version of you was never permanent, only a passing shape within the boundless field of awareness. What remains now is not a new identity to cling to, but a spacious presence that cannot be named. A quiet knowing that simply is. This presence is not something you achieve. It has always been here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to notice. It is the same awareness that watched your childhood dreams, the same silent witness to every joy and heartbreak. And yet, as you recognize it now, it feels like a discovery, like opening a window to a view that was always outside your door. You are not becoming something other than yourself. You are awakening to what has always been true. With every moment, the adventure deepens. Life will continue to offer experiences, moments of beauty, and moments of challenge that invite you to embody this awareness more fully. Think of it as a river that flows without end. You do not need to control its course. Your only task is to notice the water against your skin, to trust its movement, to allow its gentle strength to carry you forward. The more you relax into this flow, the more you will discover that each bend in the river reveals new horizons of understanding. This is the quiet wonder of awakening. It does not close the book on your story. Instead, it opens you to an infinite series of chapters, each one more subtle and profound than the last. You may feel the temptation to define what has happened, to capture it in words, or fix it into a concept. For language, awareness cannot be contained. It is the boundless sky in which every thought and feeling drifts like passing clouds. As you rest in this spaciousness, notice how the old habits of the mind begin to lose their grip. The need to prove, to control, to be someone special, all of these dissolve in the quiet recognition that you are already whole. From this place, even ordinary moments shimmer with significance. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of distant laughter, the simple act of breathing. Each becomes a gateway, a gentle reminder of the infinite field that you are. And yet, the journey continues. This is not an ending, but an unfolding without limit. The universe, in its vast intelligence, will keep inviting you to explore, to deepen, to embody awareness in ways you cannot yet imagine. You might wake tomorrow to a challenge that asks for greater compassion, or to a joy so unexpected it expands the boundaries of your heart. Each experience, whether soft or sharp, becomes another step into the mystery of who you truly are. Remember, there is no final version of you to reach. The old self is gone, but there will never be a fixed new self to replace it. There is only this ongoing dance of presence and becoming, this eternal invitation to meet life as it is. Let this realization be both your anchor and your inspiration. You are awareness itself, and awareness has no end. So, as the final moments of this journey settle in, breathe gently and feel the quiet pulse of existence. The same silence that opened this path now wraps you in a soft embrace, whispering of infinite possibilities. The mystery is alive, and it calls you to listen again and again. Let this be your gentle conclusion. The adventure of awakening is forever. You have not reached the end. You have only stepped into a deeper beginning. The old you has dissolved like night, giving way to dawn, and in its place is the boundless presence that you have always been. Allow yourself to rest in that truth, serene yet endlessly curious, ready to explore the limitless horizons of your own being.